design thinking process from start to end. And one of the things about doing a project is you deliver it to a client. So thank you all very much for coming in as people who know about DayBreak, care about it, and may have some interest in the future. And you can get an idea of what the teams have been working on. Thank you to the teams who've done an amazing job coming in early over this time. I'm looking forward to seeing what you've done, but I already know there's lots of really useful stuff there for us, so I hope you've also got some use out of it and learned some stuff about the process. I'm going to hand over now to Carl and Claire to tell us
and just to build on what Shane said, we have done a bunch of stuff over 6 mornings at like 6:30 start, which is more like 2 a.m. to 10 p.m. is what it feels like. So all of this has happened in about 12 hours, and in fact probably about 7-ish to 8 hours of actual money. So the rest has kind of been Claire and I making jokes. So that's the kind of premise on this. So pretty amazing where we get to and where these teams have got to in a short amount of time, and by learning the process as well. So just checking that up there. So the rest of the session's going to be real fun. Teams are going to come up. These are our 4 teams here, and they're going to share their journey and where they got to. And then what we'll do is we'll throw it out to you guys for some Q&A, a couple of questions, then we'll move on. So they've got 7 minutes each. We'll be pretty staunch on it, which is cool. So yeah, that's us, right? Any questions? Did you have a question?
Oh, no. I just
I'd like to share a few things with you. So Tom's going to speak first, and then I'm going to do some drawing. So take the mic, Tom.
Cool. So recently the DayBreak Festival happened, and by all accounts it was a great success, but there were a few insights that came out of it, and one of them was that people want to connect with people, and that is the problem that we're working with. So our journey starts with a bit of empathy collection and insights, and the very first thing that came up that really surprised us is while they want to connect with people, people are really focused on connecting with the speakers, and that was what they really wanted out of this. And as we delved a bit deeper, we realised a lot of this came to the fact that people aren't that big. A lot of people aren't a fan of small talk. They want a more sort of intentional, for business opportunities, for information out of people. They also don't really want to pay for it. So I guess a quick survey, hands up, how many people have gone to a festival where it's been very awkward, forced icebreakers that have not really worked out so well? Yeah, it's quite a few people. So what we came down to is what realistically, going into this, people wanted something that was natural, but a little bit structured. So yeah, not forced. They wanted something maybe a bit smaller settings, a bit more intimate, and just that where they can have those sort of smaller conversations, but not feel pressured into having to small talk something. So we came down to, we threw a few wild ideas about, and one of the first ones that came up was, why don't we host it on a cruise ship? The main reason is, it's a novel idea, it's a natural icebreaker. It's a bit of a different experience. We could actually hire an icebreaker, but so to go to the next idea, we decided, okay, maybe we reined it in a little bit, and we realised there are smaller boats like the QP that float around the Whangarei, the Tauranga Harbour. So we've gone to scale it down, and what we've thought about is, one of the things we also found at Insight is, we thought was a bit odd, was that people didn't actually mind if the boat moved or not. It could be a stationary boat, it's just the boat was the novelty. So we realised that we can park one of these boats up quite close to the cargo shed, which is where it's been hosted. It's a very easy hop on and off environment, stationary boat, and it becomes really just another venue, but a novel venue which sort of is in a bit more intimate setting for people to have these connections in.
Thank you, Tom. Now, you will note it says TCC on the boat. We thought they might sponsor. Anyway. We're not paying. All right, so I'm going to speak. I'm going to be the speaker. I have seen that the DayBreak event is happening, and I've got my agenda. And so I've seen that there's lots of plenary sessions that are going on, but there's a few speakers that are on that list, and I want to meet one of them. I thought they're really cool. I want to have an opportunity to get more information from them, or maybe even a business opportunity, but I need a setting where I can actually get in touch with them. So as they're booking this session, they've looked at the plenary and they've gone, okay, well here's the schedule of things that are on, and here's another opportunity where I can have a closer, intimate time with them. But however, we realised with the scheduling, if the speaker's session is on the second day, they also need an opportunity to still be able to connect. So how would they get the information? So we're just going to take you on a bit of a journey. We've looked at the agenda, we've seen who's speaking, but actually, because they're now speaking on the second day, how will I know more about them if I actually want to connect with them? So P1, you guys can have it out here. We thought that maybe the speakers would have a bio. So they would have an introductory video on who they are, ask some questions. That becomes an advertising opportunity for the speaker, but also for P1 to tag that in on LinkedIn. And great resource, get those speakers in, they want that too. So promo video. Then they decide, they lock it in, and they've heard also that this is going to be on a boat. So the other venues, they're in really cool corporate offices around the bay, but hey, there's a boat out in the water. I want to go on that. There's a sense of curiosity in that. And so we thought, let's get that QP cruise. This boat changes every time I draw it. But for that opportunity, you're now going on that boat. You've probably brought another friend because you're not really sure who else is going to be on this boat with you. But you know that the speaker's going to be there and you're going to have a more intimate setting. There's only 20 people on this boat in the session with you. So the idea in terms of facilitating asking questions, we decided that we were going to use Slido. So as you're going to get onto the boat, there's a QR code. You scan that and then you can add your questions to that as they are prompted through the session. It's also a social setting. We realise that people need some social lubrication in order to be in this kind of environment. So afternoon tea, morning tea, mimosas, something to that effect. But there is also then an opportunity for people to connect with other like-minded people that seem to have something in common with you. They admire that speaker as well. And so they have this formal session with the speaker where they do a quick intro, maybe 5 minutes about a topic, and then you have that Q&A. And P1, thanks for facilitating, but they're going to help out with facilitating those questions for the speaker. Then afterwards, the expectation is set with the speaker that they will stay on the boat and mingle with the people that have come along. The benefit for the speaker is that they know these people are interested in them, but there could also be business opportunities for them in continuous work, which is quite cool. Now, to the boat, we thought the benefit here is for the connection to Tauranga. We think it's a fantastic opportunity. People like Tauranga Moana, and let's showcase it. Let's open those doors of the cargo shed. Apparently there's going to be a deck coming along. Let's put the boat there, and then people will have that curiosity experience to connect. So they're connecting with the people that are there, they're speakers, they're also connecting with our environment and P1 as well. That's us.
Any cues? 2 cues?
Questions? Yes.
Did you have an idea of how long that session would be? Is there, because obviously there can be too long, is there like an hour?
Oh yeah, so probably 20 minutes for the Q&A and then expectation half an hour mingling after. Yeah. Oh, Barney in the back.
Just some feedback. I love this idea because from hosting a session, Business Beyond Usual, with Datacom, there's obviously that two-way street where also the business that you work with need and want to get something out of coming and hosting a session, particularly if they do it for free. Cool. So I love this idea.
Cool.
Is the thought that you have just the one speaker on the boat? Is there, because obviously we have several speakers, so we have several boat sessions. Do we have like several sessions on the same boat? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we thought that for each one of these sessions there will be a boat. The boat is there the whole time, and there will be potentially 2 speakers on each session. One upstairs, one downstairs.
So
Okay, firstly, love it, and also just love having boats towed on the city side as opposed to the mount side, because they seem to all get the boats and we get nothing. So that's cool. But just one question: how do we, like with the mingling after the question and answer, how do we stop the speakers from being overwhelmed by the 20 or so people?
Want their LinkedIn photo. Something we did explore was the opportunity to grab a deli ticket. You know, you go to the deli and you get your ticket and you've got 5 minutes. And so that becomes quite formal, and then there's like a speed dating effect that you cut them off. We didn't share that with you today because we thought maybe there might be the natural spend the time they get to explore, but yes, we haven't quite solved it.
Just a couple of questions, maybe builds. For the questions that are going to be asked to the presenters, I wonder if there's a way to do that prior to the session so that the speakers could have time to prepare.
Yes.
So instead of when you go on the boat to enter in your Slido question, could you do that before? And then also, if it's going to be intimate, I wonder if you could have like a photo booth or something on the boat, and so you could get cool pics and whatever on the boat too.
Resident photographer.
Yeah, awesome. So, switching gears, pretty book, what? Awesome, well done, great, you guys dug down, you went into some empathy work, you thought you were going in with one thing and you actually ended up hearing some other stuff and coming out of this, so awesome. For you guys, what did you like? What would you take away? What was it about this process? How was the process?
I guess from my point of view, the boat came out quite early because the first thing was we did cruise ship just as like what we had unlimited budget, and then the boat became a metaphor. But as we went along, we're like, well, actually, no, we can just have a boat. So that's quite interesting to my point of view.
So, and we've been on this journey of 6 days, getting up at some silly hour, right? So, what have you liked about the process? What have you learned through? Key takeout.
Yeah, it's just it's just stepping back and it's just isolating everything and not trying to jump to solutions straight away, which is obviously the natural way you want to do things.
Yeah.
And then just come back and just try and get all the information up front.
Yeah.
Sort of front loading a lot of work of just the connections before you even get to solutions. So.
Yeah, cool.
For me, it was about, you go wide and there were so many possibilities and lots of things we wanted to get into and just grappling with not getting attached to anything. And then committing to something and then exploring that and giving it out to the world and those user tested. I also didn't think we were going to continue on with this boat, but it actually turns out it's plausible. And that was the most surprising thing, is what I thought was outrageous turned out to be feasible. And one thing I guess we didn't add is that boat's stationary. We explored for a long time on whether the boat was going to leave. It turns out it doesn't need to. So that surprised me as well.
And what will you take with you from here?
Out of this? The whole process, the reason I did this session again was to refresh my thinking and learn the subtleties, but there's lots of different parts of the process that I can apply to different situations. But for me, I think the key learning I've taken this time is just that bias that I have. This was not the problem I thought we were going to solve, and it took me quite a while to be like, okay, we're committing.
What was the problem you thought you were going to be solving?
Connecting people to people, not connecting with speakers. Yeah.
It was a big pivot none of us saw coming, but it was like,
Which could still exist.
Yes, and we've got lots of ideas for that.
Awesome, hey, give it up. They were a minute under time on their...
yeah, but you were 5 minutes over in your
Thanks, man.
We're the team registration and information. This is Kelly.
Good morning.
This is Kate. Lisa, unfortunately, she needs to go to adult life. And I'm Ricky.
So we went through a really similar process to the other team about going out and talking to people. What do they like about DayBreak? Did they have any problems with the registration information processes? We heard that the festival was amazing. We got heaps of positive feedback. People really enjoyed it. They really connected with the idea of DayBreak. There was some confusion around Festival of Innovation. So some people read tech, STEM, AI into that idea. We heard that a lot of people came for the connection, for the professional development. Quite a few people came from what we saw from their organisation, paid for the ticket, or their small business paid for the ticket. We heard that the registration for the individual sessions, the information was really engaging. People read it, they wanted to go to those sessions. they liked the speakers. There was a lot of weight or authority added by the Priority 1 name, by the quality of the speakers, and then also that idea of coming in through LinkedIn added some professionalism or some credence to it. So within all of those ideas, we narrowed down
the problem at hand. So, initially we used a few approaches to come to what the real problem was. One of them was this 5 whys approach. So we can see here, the main problem we initially thought was that people couldn't attend the sessions that they wanted to. So you branch off this, why is that? And it was because there wasn't space at the venues, because the venues themselves weren't big enough. But why wasn't there space at the venues? Because they didn't register early enough. So no one really knew how to structure it and how much space was really required for certain events. They didn't register early enough, we think partially because they didn't have the information early enough, so they weren't really sure, they didn't have that kind of push over the line to purchase the ticket and just trust the process. It was a little bit vague, so they left it to the last minute until the word of mouth got to them.
There's a human nature element to that as well.
Yeah. So, part of the problem that we thought was mainly the root cause is because they didn't register early enough, which strained on both scheduling on Priority 1's side, and it was also a bit of a mess for people's calendars and the sessions themselves. So this is what we focused on. So our steps to the solution, we wrote them all up, big brainstorm, and then we categorised these ideas. We categorised them into main ideas and then all the kind of subcategories around them. And we've got a few points, but we kind of narrowed it down to the earlier session info. And we got here with a yes and approach, so rather than no, that's not going to work, but we can try this, and just negativity, get that out. It's always a yes, that's a good idea, and we can add something to it. It's always positive, it builds on ideas, and it's not throwing people down. So we then became onto the root cause of early session info, and we built on that.
So we came up with the idea of ambassadors. It's a working name. We're open to suggestions. We're hearing heroes, ninjas, daybreakers. We're open to input on that. But who are these ambassadors? What are we looking for from them? So what we want to do with those ambassadors is we want to leverage their professional networks, either through their organisation or through a professional body that they're part of. Maybe it's the Women's Business Network, maybe it's Main Street or Downtown Tauranga, maybe it's the Engineers Guild. How do we leverage the connections that those people have and spread our tentacles out into those organisations? So here our engineers have been hard at work. So we're going to pick the metaphor here, right? We can go viral. We can talk about extending tentacles. Maybe it's a spider's web where we catch those people and connect them in. We would never say pyramid scheme. But how do we leverage that word of mouth? How do we leverage the trust that those people have out in the organisations? How do we take the workload off Priority 1 and push it out further into our circle of influence? So our ambassadors, our heroes, our daybreakers, what do they get out of it? So we thought, social lubrication, always good, right? Let's bring them in for some cocktails. Like the connection team, we heard that people are there to build those networks and to connect with people, to connect with Priority 1, to connect with the speakers. So what we're suggesting is a tasting menu at that cocktail evening where we show them a couple of keynote speakers, where we show them some of those plenary sessions, where we get an opportunity to introduce some of those speakers that are so well regarded and give them an opportunity to connect and form their own network amongst those ambassadors. We also suggested that people are there for their professional development. So can we offer some exclusive access at this cocktail and connection evening where they get some PD that isn't available through the festival, that is specific to the types of people that would be ambassadors or daybreakers or heroes or ninjas and we would send them away with an information pack. So this information pack has what does Festival of Innovation mean? why should people come to it, what are the types of sessions that we're offering, and how and when do people need to connect to those sessions. And they can start to build that idea of, if you haven't registered by January, you're not coming. Get in quick, get into those sessions. Have I missed anything? No? Alright.
Cool. Where to from here? So first off, we need to find these ambassadors. We ideally will handpick them, people with connections, people that can make an influence onto valuable attendees. We obviously can't invite everyone in Tauranga, so we need to make good choices on who we invite, but also on who's going to be able to find those people. Then we can host the soiree. We can get all fancy with it, make them excited, give them a bit of a jump on the cruise ship. And yeah, gonna hand them off with an information pack and that kind of thing. Get them all ready to just go out there, go find the best people for DayBreak.
So as those tickets launch, they are prepped and ready to go.
Yeah. And then bring on DayBreak. Hopefully, a lot easier to schedule. Ideally, kind of similar, slightly better outcome, but it was a good event. There's a lot of positivity around it, so we don't really want to change that. We just want to make it easier on the priority 1 team for scheduling and planning, and just keep the event as a very well-known, good word-of-mouth event.
And so we leave you with a question. Are you our daybreakers?
I did something really mean to this team about 2 minutes before you all walked in the room, and I was like, I absolutely hate the word ambassadors. And so that's why I kind of kept looking at me going, Daybreakers, heroes, it's a good because I just dropped the grenade and you're all right.
So very flexible in it.
And you're just very agile in your approach. Some questions from the floor.
Amazing. I wonder how we can connect these along the way. So there was a mention of the boat there right at the end. I wonder whether you could get your ambassadors.
You like that, don't you?
That's a great. You should stick with that. Could you get your ambassadors to interview the speakers?
Oh,
so you know how these guys are going to have a video. I wonder if you could interview them and that be the video where they talk about themselves, and you could also have
and why they would come to Daybreak and what's
yeah, and then that's a connection, that's a bonus that they get that no one else gets as well. And so you'll edit the thing in the end to have it sort of looking good. But that could be a good way to connect those two things together.
Oh, good. Love it.
I love your idea of the tentacles, because everybody has networks of their own, so I really love that tentacle idea. But as soon as I heard it, I'm thinking the VIPs that are going on the boats. If you want to be a VIP and meet the speaker, you actually need to register so that there's a bit of a FOMO.
Are you going to that session? No, you don't get to meet them.
Love it. And you'll see, I don't want to give anything away, but there is some connection to this, to what's coming next, so hold some of those thoughts. Go ahead.
Short of purchasing a boat for us, that all sounded wicked. I just had one question in terms of, I think the hard thing we were always grappling with in organising it was, apart from just kind of nutting in that program, was what is the timing in terms of getting it in people's diary and getting them to commit? Did you have a chance to look at that at all?
I didn't even say that. So one of the questions that we had was, will we go in March? Where are we going to be in March? Are we still going to be with the organisations that we're with?
Yes.
Identifying the individuals ahead of time can be hard, but our organisation has a much stronger view of where they're going to be in March and what their objectives are and what sessions they want to send people to. So we also looked at the idea. So I'm from Tauranga City Council. We've got 1,200 employees now. Maybe it won't be me going, but my manager can look at it and go, we're really interested in sustainability. We're going to send 5 people to that session. We don't know what the names are yet, but some kind of business or
to purchase.
so there may be an opportunity in there about how we leverage the longevity of an organisation.
The other benefit of registering early is that you can have the ambassadors help shape DayBreak as well. So, like the people are saying, I'm going to come and talk on sustainability, the ambassadors can help shape up specifically what people are interested in and want to hear
Who's
about.
the target audience? Who are the right people to get along? And what are the interests? And do you shift the program around based on the feedback that they're getting? Yeah, we talked about planning horizons too, about how we get that kind of tenuous information and then lock it in as we get closer. So you can take feedback.
One last question, go me.
Just a quick one. You guys mentioned the word innovation, that it could be a little bit confusing. Did you guys flesh that out any further? Because I think that comes into some of my work that I do too, is like, what is innovation?
So in our workplace, we still ended up sending 7 or 8 people just from Oasis Engineering. So being an engineering firm, they're all like, innovation to them is design products, it's working with new materials, it's kind of groundbreaking physical stuff. Whereas they found when they went, it was a lot of like the sustainability and the marketing business side of things. It's still valuable, but it's not quite what they expected. Some were fine with it, some people just weren't quite so, I guess, enthusiastic once they got there and realised that's kind of what it was, because it's not where they want to go.
So your ambassador is prepped with what does innovation mean, our engineering guild, what does it mean for them and what sessions are likely to be interesting? And also, for me, if I can't find the information immediately on a website, I might walk away from it. But if I know I can talk to a person that is well respected, that knows about it.
One thing, I'm going to call it because some of you have to leave it again. One thing that we didn't call out at the start that will help when we're thinking about something. So we had 7 minutes. And they hinted at some other stuff that they'd found out, and we don't want to lose that goal. So one of the things we're going to do after this is ask a member of each team to have a sit down with Shane and whoever else to just kind of go through some of those other areas that didn't make the cut today. All good? Woo! But why not? Synergy. Take it away.
Okay. Hello, we are Team Program and Instructor. My name is Juan, and this is our design thinking journey. Imagine going to a fancy restaurant. You get to your table and you look around. The dishes on the other table look amazing. The starters, the main dishes, the desserts, even the dips look great. Suddenly, the staff brings the menu to the table. A 10 pages menu with lots and lots of options to choose from. 20 starters, 30 main dishes, 30 desserts, and many wine options. You look around again, you want to try them all. Inevitably, you get food FOMO.
So we were thrown into the vault with the problem in opportunity space of the structure and format of the festival. Improving the design of the program, this is arguably the hardest problem to solve. We got quotes for this. We got receipts. And we're truly grateful for that. We quickly came together as a team, and our diversity was definitely a strength. We all had different ways to contribute, and our mix of skills meshed together really well. Our lack of experience in festival planning was a plus, as it allowed us to have a fresh perspective.
So the first stage in this process is always empathy, right? So we needed to go out and talk to our customers and not only understand what they were doing throughout the festival, what their movement was, but how they felt throughout the festival. And some really great keywords came up from that process. So we actually spoke to quite a few attendees, and we also spoke to the organisers as well, because it's really important for us to not lose the essence of the festival. I think with a problem like this, it's really tempting to jump straight into solution mode, like, oh, let's just make everything online, or try and figure things outside the scope. Some key quotes that came from the attendees were, I couldn't get to everything that I wanted, but that's a sign of a great festival, because everything was just great quality. Loads and loads of positive thoughts came out. Some presentations were a little bit too long, but then actually on the flip side of that, some people said that the workshops just flew by. They absolutely loved the length of those sessions. So a really big challenge for us was, how do you balance that flexibility for the attendees but also give actual structure and thought so that it becomes easy for the organisers to organise. So we knew that people's time was very precious. Before they had to choose one of 6 workshops. So we had this huge scope, we had lots and lots and lots of ideas, which is some thousands of post-its probably. So we needed a North Star. We needed to really hone in and define the problem. So our North Star became, how might we create a structure and a schedule that enables maximum value but reduces FOMO. So FOMO is just such a key theme throughout all of our research. That was the problem we were looking at.
Nice. Yeah, so as Freya said, we had a lot of ideas getting thrown around the table, but ultimately this how might we statement helped keep us anchored throughout the whole process, which was nice. We took some crazy turns, but always brought back to that. Some of the key areas that we looked at were the session length and the type of session. So yeah, sitting and listening for 3 hours is a lot different than engaging in an activity for 3 hours. Yeah, and just the overall schedule that helps reduce FOMO. I know we mentioned how FOMO can be a good thing in some cases, but if you're missing out on the main events, that there's really no limitation other than just a scheduling conflict. That's what we're really trying to reduce here. So we looked at a few different options, like a linear schedule or mixing and matching different types of sessions, and they all theoretically could work. So what we did was, so what we did was we came up with an interactive prototype. So we had, here it is on the wall. We had the different types of sessions, and we had a few testers come in and actually plan out their schedule in a way. Like we had the schedule, but they just kind of picked and choose what they wanted to do based on some of the time constraints with like lunch and morning tea and that sort of thing. We went through this a couple times and came up with 4 really key suggestions, which are the presentation length, the session length, and session style, which I kind of already touched on. So your snacks versus your entrees and your mains. Offering an always-on space, so the option to always break out into, either take a break or have a coffee or do some networking on the cruise ship that we've got. Moving the celebration to day 1. We've heard that a lot of people missed out on that because they just, they had to go home or wherever. And then bookending the event with keynote speakers, so a real bang at the start and end of the event, and you kind of build things out in between. So I'm going to hand over to Wayne to bring us back into the restaurant for a second.
Apologies for all the puns and analogies that have now come forth. So, welcome to this snackable conference. So, first of all, we understand there has to be strong pillars around any conference. So we keep the opening ceremony and the headliners to get people into the event. Of course, it was going to end with lunch. Yeah. So we were thinking maybe bringing people back to the cargo shed, using that as a central area, do food trucks. Maybe you could bring cruise liner in, they can cater it. Celebration, end of the day. Just gives those people that energy to continue on into the second day. Then lunch again, headline will close, and we have a closing ceremony. But in between the pillars is where you get to choose and snack. So I'm on keto at the moment. Okay, I'm like my little bite-sized stuff. I'm going to go for my speaker. The speaker is just a person who comes in and presents, kind of 1 hour session. It's basically an information center session. Or in this session, I might actually want to go to an interactive workshop. Something that's a bit longer, it's more interactive. We have a bit of dialogue and session, so can speak to the speaker, ask questions and stuff. But those guys who are basically training for marathons, they probably want a big lasagna meal. And so therefore, we've got workshops, big, chunky, 3 hour workshops that you go in, you break into groups, kind of what we've done over 6 days, okay? But don't just leave these ones, we give you the opportunity to choose when you want a snack, when you want a dessert, when you want a lasagna. So we duplicate these again on following days. So you can reduce FOMO, we can't exclude it all, but we can reduce FOMO by giving you the option of where you're going to go do a 3 hour workshop, or am I going to do 2 interactive workshops? Okay? So, doing this snack, and sitting on the side, which I think is now a shit, is our networking always on. You can come have coffee. Speakers are having coffee. You might engage with the speaker. You might also engage with the other colleagues. We had an example of a person who left one of the presentations because they didn't quite agree with what was being said. You might find some other people who totally agree with what you're saying and all have coffee and start your own little chat. So that's a network opportunity. So overall, this is the Snackable Conference and we're open to taking your orders.
How do we feel?
I think what was really cool, and obviously I came and spent a bit of time with you yesterday morning, which was really insightful, is having keeping the 3 kind of different session styles in there, which I think is such an important thing, having those 3 different session times. I think it's wicked. We've kind of got 2 questions. I'll just so one question is, you've stuck with 2 days. Was that the kind of consensus from your going and speaking to attendees and stuff like that, or did you look at kind of a day, like just a 1-dayer or a 3-dayer, 4-dayer scenario?
Well, just going to those sessions, the number of sessions you already had, if you try to take those 6 sessions you already had, I think it's 15 overall, try to put them all into 1 day, then you're creating FOMO, because again, I have to choose out of 15 sessions instead of 6, and so this is 3 over 2 days. We think 3 days was going to be too long. We've already taken too much time. There are people who have to pick up kids and people in Tara don't like driving in peak hour traffic.
Stay on the boat.
Yeah.
And the other question was just whether or not recording sessions came up as a way of also reducing FOMO, and whether that was something that was kind of explored.
It did, and very much so, but we very quickly fell down the route of, right, well, do we get videographers in and do it properly? Do we just do it, hang an iPhone up and record the session? How are we going to manage breakout rooms? And then the scope just started to expand outside of what we wanted to achieve here. It was very, very much a question. And to what quality would you have been able to enable the networking that was going on, the connection to speakers? Designing an online conference, actually we went through this exercise and we're like, what's the worst thing we could do for DayBreak? And the worst thing that we could do for DayBreak was put it all online. So because of the connection and the feelings that everyone was feeling, I think if we address, I think energy management came up a lot with the feelings. It's one thing I forgot to say in the beginning. How do you help people manage their energy throughout the day? And that was a very important question that, so along with answer saying,
And we thought it could be a solution to the venue. Someone mentioned that venues being full, that overflow. So we started encroaching on other people's areas. So we thought we'd better rein ourselves back.
I feel it could have been its own thing, definitely. And
So great. Yeah, it was definitely the hardest one, for sure. Well, from my
a structural approach to delivering DayBreak. Did you consider how the topics would get allocated to the delivery modes?
Yeah, that's
great. Because I think there's a really interesting opportunity here, again tying back to the previous one, is that if people are registering, instead of saying this is my topic and I'm going to deliver it as a workshop, why don't you let the people decide whether they want a workshop or whatever the other ones are, so that then the topic is more aligned to the delivery mode that the audience actually wants.
We understood like some of the big workshops this time were had already been kind of run elsewhere and fully kind of packaged into a session time, while other people kind of got invited along and said, here you go, here's a slot, now talk. And I guess that's the kind of thing, if you've got a person who's just wants to give a half hour to an hour spiel on what they think about AI, and they just want to talk about it, ironically, then maybe they just do the 1 hour. If it's a person like we've been doing with this design, it's a big deal.
Yeah, so the suggestion is instead of the speaker defining the delivery mode, get the audience to define what they want.
The Daybreakers.
That's awesome. All right, go.
Would you consider breaking the sessions up into different streams? Because I've seen that work quite well at conferences in the past, and it would help perhaps with the engineers who want an engineering focus on innovation and have a stream which is kind of targeted specifically at them.
Cool. Great suggestion. All right, let's get moving.
Alright, so you've just signed up for Boring Conference 2025. You've just arrived at your unknown location and nobody wants to look your way. There's no coffee, it's 6 a.m. and a lanyard's thrust into your hand and you're just feeling the anxiety starting to creep in for what's to come. Not like DayBreak 2025. Alright, so you've just come into the building, you've got someone smiling, you know, you see somebody that you know, you've got people there to welcome you. You've set up with a really informative lanyard or welcome pack. You're set up for the energy to get you through the next couple of days. That's what we want to start looking at.
So we're the team Welcome and Navigation. This is Hamish, Derek, and Linda. We also have Kate, but she couldn't be here, unfortunately. So we went out also to go and talk to people and figure out what was the Welcome and Navigation like, what is the problem that people found. In general, people thought it was awesome. The biggest problem we found was that people arrived and didn't really know what was going on at times, just because there wasn't enough people, and because it was quite spread out over town, that people felt a little bit lost at times. So we wanted to figure out how can we ensure that the attendees feel welcome and informed when they arrive, so they can feel confident and get the most out of their experience.
Yeah, so we built on that kind of process of the welcome and navigation information. It was really important that we shaped the experience early with the whole welcome and arrival, so that carried on to a great experience throughout the rest of the event. So that's our premise. We started with, we figured out kind of what the main problem was, which was making sure people were really welcomed and really informed. We went out, got on the phone, talked to other people that we were connected with, both attendees as well as some speakers and people that were at the event, and just got a whole bunch of different feedback and wishes as far as what they wanted out of the event. A lot of it was very positive. One thing that kept hitting the mark was really that human interaction, human experience, and just having someone there to talk with. So from there we came up with a whole giant board of ideas, many different things, some outrageous, some very practical, and they kind of fit into two different camps, which were sort of the digital, help yourself, provide information, as well as the other camp, which was more just the human interaction of like speaking to someone and they provide you with information. So from there, we decided to land on the human interaction was really the big kind of idea that people kept going to with the feedback that we received of like what they would really want from that first kind of initial arrival at the event.
So the solution we came up with is something called the Welcome Crew. I guess it kind of fits in with the ambassador thing, but the Welcome Crew would be made up of volunteers that would be sourced from, let's say, the university or local companies to ensure certain quality of volunteers. Their job would be literally to welcome people and be there to inform people. So you would walk into the event, they would all be wearing the same t-shirts. So they would be really obvious, and hopefully there would be enough that literally you walk in, someone will come and greet you, make sure you're informed, ask if you have any questions. We would have them stationed at the front, as well as at all the different sessions across town. And ideally, if we have enough volunteers, also around town, just on the streets, so that if people get lost on their way to a session, there's someone that they know belongs to the events and they can ask them. And they would be really proactive and visible to everyone to ask questions and be there.
The Welcome Hub could even be on it.
So now that we've got our amazing team of volunteers who would be mostly derived from probably connections with Priority One already through the university or different businesses or organizations. We now need to provide them with some tools so they can be effective at what they're doing throughout the different event locations. And that was a big feedback thing too, was there was a central hub of the welcome central location where people could go and get information, but at the actual events, there was no clear definition of who the welcoming person was there, who was kind of checking them in or providing with information. So we thought that the best way to help our volunteers would be to provide them with a tablet of some sort that they could then use with the lanyard, which would contain a QR code. So it would be very easy for them to check in at each event to see who the people are, whether they've registered, and it just would speed up that whole process. So that was a big part of it. And then some other improvements that we wanted to make. The lanyard, we got overwhelming feedback that people loved the lanyard. It was a great kind of visual thing that people could see, yes, these are the people that are part of the event. It's very easy to connect with them and just help with the whole community aspect. So we wanted to build upon that, and we came up with having talk to me about. So there would be on the registration some interests that people could put in voluntarily, optional. But that way, on your lanyard, there's actually a few things of interest to you, so that's very easy to then, if you want to network and connect with people, break that ice of going up to someone, and it's very easy to see what their interests are, and go from there.
I'm sorry, I probably forgot the most important part. The volunteers, obviously they need an incentive to be there at all. Their incentive would be that they would get a free ticket, so that one of the 2 days they would be volunteering, they would be helping out, and then the other day they would just get to attend for free. And they would receive a 1-hour training the day before the festival starts, so that they are informed, they know what to do, but they would also have their tablet where they can obviously look up the schedule and everything again.
Yeah, so really it brings it all back to that welcome feeling. So welcomed and informed. We want the volunteers to have all of that training up front. They've got all the information they need on the day. There's somebody there that's really easy to see and provide you with that comfort of knowing I know who to go to, exactly who it is. You know, if there's staff or admin people, there's lots of things going on, but these people are there dedicated just to making sure that you've got the experience that you want to have coming into this event.
And I guess you could almost tie it with the ambassadors.
Yeah.
The ambassadors are also going to be the volunteers, and then they get to go on the boat at the end.
If you go and talk to people about, look at conferences and how they've been run, increasingly the push is more and more to, QR codes and apps and other stuff, and I've never found those myself kind of actually usable. But you dig into what people want when they arrive. Can you just talk a bit more about any of you? Did you ask people about apps and all that stuff? And what was that?
We did ask a few, but there's just, I guess when you go to an event, there's just such a big variety of people who attend. So yes, obviously the young or tech-savvy people, they will be fine with it and they would maybe like that. But in general, for everyone can work with people. Everyone enjoys talking to people, hopefully, most people. And it's just something that will suit everyone. Like, you don't have to pull out your phone, and it also works with the connection side of things. You will connect with people, you will talk to people. If you have only everything tech, you might as well do it online.
I think what we found as well was that there wasn't a lack of information. I think most of the feedback that we got is that people knew that they had all the information they needed, like on the website or through emails and things like that. They were just a little bit confused when they showed up because maybe they hadn't gone through the information. They thought they would just kind of wing it when they got there, and there wasn't really a clear place for them to go and this is where you start and then get the information they needed. Also that there wasn't dedicated welcoming people, and that there was people there part of the organization, but they were maybe chatting kind of amongst themselves, or they weren't exactly there to be really friendly and welcoming on arrival. So.
I suppose maybe the last piece of that is one of the parts of the brief was that it needed to work in with what P1 had in terms of cost and reducing work. And so at design, making all of that sort of stuff has a cost factor, and you've also got to brief, I'm not sure whether you guys have in-house, but you've got to brief someone on what it is that you want to have there. And so this factor, that was sort of led us down another path, and we wanted to lean more into that personal touch.
So well done for DTX 2024. Thanks for showing thanks to you guys.
Enjoy the alarm not going off for about 5 minutes. Massive shout out to Shane.